Good morning, how are you? We're about not having any extra room. There's the GoPro. Hey. Did it survive? I think it survived.
I remember it like it was yesterday. My 25th birthday came around. My brother-in-laws took me out to Cabela's. Little did I know my wife was scheming at home. She was planning a surprise party for me. When we got back to the house, all the birthday decorations surrounded buffalo. You see, about a year before that, I got the itch to raise buffalo, and I couldn't stop talking about it. My wife took notice. It was very hard not to, and she surrounded my 25th birthday celebration around buffalo. This whole buffalo thing has gone back a number of years. I was about 24 years old when I first set my sights on what I wanted to do as far as on the land. I wanted to be able to raise this magnificent animal. 24, 25 years old though, I was very young and naive. I didn't know what it would take to get out onto land. You see, we were living in the city at the time, and I didn't know what it would take to get us out to the country, much less get these magnificent animals onto the ground beyond that. I needed to go get the calves some water. Where they're located up there, there's really not any way I can get a hose all the way up there. So we're just gonna haul some water until they get out of that corral. No big deal. But going back to my story before, when I was about 24 years old, I got this bug to raise buffalo. But I think some of the naiveness, I guess you could say, that I had, being that young and stupid, really helped me. And the reason for that is because I was so naive. I didn't understand what it was going to take, what sacrifices were going to have to be made, and what hard work was going to have to be done in order to get here. Like I said, I think that that helped me in the sense that it blinded me and it gave me the determination to just do it no matter what. And so over the course of the next year, 2 years, I really pushed really hard to try to figure out how we could get there. And then one thing led to another, and we got there. We purchased our first farm in Missouri. It was 43.5 acres, and I was very proud of that half acre, because coming from the city, having a half-acre yard is what we had. That felt like a big place, and so that 43.5 still felt large. So then after purchasing the farm and then getting the animals out there, that 43.5 started feeling small. I started looking around and realizing that we were too close to the city to be able to grow. The properties around us, we could afford that 43.5 just barely, but everything around was very landlocked. It was a lot of, I guess you could say, city folks that were out trying to escape the city to the country. It really wasn't far enough away from the city to be able to expand. And so we started looking around and trying to figure out if that was going to be our permanent home. Ultimately, we decided it wasn't. We had some hard times come up on the farm, and we decided that this wasn't going to be our ultimate farm. And so if we were going to make the change, now was the time. So most of you know we made that move and took that break between that farm and this farm, getting things set up. It was a long time coming. That was about 11 years ago when I first kind of started getting the itch to raise buffalo. I remember on that day, my 25th birthday, my wife took me out to a buffalo farm that I didn't really know existed. It was right on the outskirts of Kansas City. And we went out there and we got pictures, her and I, in front of the herd. Well, we fast forwarded a couple years and we ended up living 5 miles from that buffalo herd. And that gentleman who raised the buffalo on that property, I ended up becoming very close friends with him, and I still am today. Peter Cole, I mention his name quite a bit on these videos. He was just, I don't even know how to describe it. He was a mentor of mine, but beyond a mentor, he was just someone who encouraged me that this was the path. This is what my heart's desire was. I wanted to be able to raise this magnificent animal. It's so hard to convey the struggles of what it took to get us here. There's so many ups and so many downs. Where we moved down here was more than just doubling our farm to the 80 acres. It was moving to an area that had opportunity, that we could possibly get to know the neighbors and lease their ground. It was possibly maxing out our property and purchasing more ground for ourselves also. That was an option too. So it was just really to create opportunity is why we moved down here. It was such a hard thing to do to leave all the progress that we started with. We had a fully furnished house there. We had 1, 2, 3 barns. We had a corral that we had started to build. We started building fence around that whole property. We had a community, and it was a hard day, honestly, when it came time of the realization that we were essentially landlocked. We weren't going to grow this whole buffalo dream if we stayed there. I wish I would have known what I know now back then, but also I'm grateful for what happened back then too, because there was a lot of people that helped us get to the point we are today. There's a lot of circumstances that God allowed, both hard and good, that allowed us to learn from things and be at where we're at now. We had a little over 20 animals when it came time to leave the property and sell the herd. It was really heart-wrenching. We had the animals for 3.5, 4 years, and raising those animals and then seeing them leave and all that literal blood, sweat, and tears over. Coming down here now, being able to double our property as far as acreage goes, finally getting the house up to the point to where we are ready to start building the rest of the property, like fencing and corralling. Last year we bought 6 animals, but it still felt like we were still far behind where we were with the place in Missouri. But all that has now changed. These animals that we have out here puts us above the number that we had over in Missouri. And trying to be able to articulate what that is inside of me, what that really represents, in one word, I would just say it feels like progress. It feels like the last 6-7 years has just been a dead spot almost in progress. A lot of frustration, I could say, a lot of looking around and thinking that things aren't progressing enough. And a lot of that is definitely my fault for projecting what progress should be. But having these animals out here now, having a higher number of animals than we had in Missouri, and having a higher number of acreage than we had in Missouri, really isn't about the numbers, but it just feels like there's finally progress. There's something inside of me that feels like a weight has been lifted off of me and we're going somewhere. The entire dream of raising this great American icon, whatever you want to call it, this magnificent animal, going all the way back to that 25th birthday party where everything was decorated in buffalo theme. It just makes me kind of step back and look at the progress. It makes me grateful for all the hard times Heidi and I have gone through in order to get here. So here's the plan. We've got all the animals in the trailer. The first half of the trailer, or I should say the first quarter of the trailer, there's 4 yearlings in there. The rest of the calves are in the back end. So we're gonna let them all out into the corral, and then we'll talk about how many we got and what is the plan from here out. Well, they seem like they're assimilating pretty good. The 6 that we had on the property before, they came over the moment they figured out that there were buffalo in the trailer. There are 4 yearlings in here that Jamin had left over from last year. So we went ahead and took the 4 yearlings, and then the calves, there are 20 calves in here. So they're mixed, all different sizes you can see. So the yearlings are the ones that have the longer horns. You can usually kind of tell a little bit of the age of a buffalo roughly by their horns. So those longer horns are going to be the yearlings. The larger ones that are shorter horns are just really big calves. He had some really good size calves out of this year. And then the really small ones, the real small red ones, or the mixed red ones, or the ones that have some blotchiness to them, those are really, really late calves from this year. So we've got a total, out on the ranch, 30 buffalo. As long as the calves are healthy and they produce well for us, they're gonna be out here for a really long time. Buffalo tend to live a really long life, a lot longer than beef cows do. The plan with these small calves we have in here is to get a little bit more nutrition than this prairie hay into their diet. We're gonna be feeding them alfalfa on a little bit of a ration. We're gonna try to keep them in this corral a little bit longer than the rest of the group. That way we can feed them alfalfa. The other ones don't need it. I think they're gonna need a little bit more than what this prairie hay can offer. So the alfalfa is gonna have a little bit higher protein content, but it's also going to be easier on their stomach, much different than what grain would be. These guys have 4 stomachs, just like cattle do, and they don't metabolize things the same way as, let's say, pigs or even humans. They need grass, they need greenery. They don't need the grain, and the grain can actually cause problems over time. A little bit of grain is fine, but a lot of grain can cause problems over time. Giving them a little bit of grain when they're this age could perfectly be fine, but you raise the risk it not being. So we're not gonna take any chances on it. We're gonna get them alfalfa, and that should be a good supplemental feed for them until we start seeing that they're gaining a little bit of weight and I'm comfortable enough that the prairie hay is gonna be good on their sole diet. These 30 animals we have out here now is just the beginning. We're just getting started, and we love that you guys are joining us. A quick thanks to my buddy Kevin, who let me borrow this truck and trailer, to Jamin, who all these 24 animals came from today, to my brother-in-law Sam, who helped move some of these panels, to my kids, my wife, who has put up with me having this buffalo craze. She's put up with me for the last 13 years, and of those 13 years, it's been a lot of buffalo talk. So thank you, Heidi, and thank you for your support. And ultimately, I want to thank God for being able to have this opportunity to raise this amazing animal. And thank you guys for watching.